And now, Knock 2 Studios presents Common Censored.
What do you do for a living?
Oh, I'm a model.
Wow, like runway model?
OnlyFans model.
Damn, are you expensive?
The Matrix is a system, Neo.
Subscribe to my OnlyFans.
That system is full of degenerates. When you're inside, you look around, what do you see? Businessmen, teachers, lawyers, carpenters, the very minds of the people we are trying to save. But until we do, these people are still a part of the woke system, and that makes them our enemy. You have to understand, most of these people are not ready to pick up a biology textbook. And many of them are so inert, so hopelessly dependent on their pronouns that they will fight to protect it. Were you listening to me, Neo? Or were you looking at the dude in the red dress?
A dude?
Look again.
Cancel him!
Who is it? That wasn't a woman?
No. It's another training program designed to teach you one thing. If you are not one of us, you might marry one of them.
What are they?
Transformers. They can move in and out of any gender, regardless of their chromosomes. That means that anyone coming out of the female bathroom is potentially a ladyboy. Inside the Matrix, they can identify as anything, but in reality, it's just delusion.
We have survived by hiding from them, by running from them. But they are at the Diddy parties. They are guarding all the doors while they are touching all the kids, which means that sooner or later, someone is going to have to fight them.
Someone.
I won't lie to you, Neo. Every single man or woman who has stood their ground, everyone who has fought this agenda got canceled. But where they have failed, you will succeed.
What?
I've seen an agent identify as a concrete wall. Men have emptied entire clips at them and hit nothing but air. Yet their strength and their speed are still based in a world that is built on rules. Because of that, they will never be as strong or as fast as you can be.
What are you trying to tell me? That I can dodge lawsuits?
No, Neo. If you identify as an innocent human being, you won't have to.
I identify as an innocent human being.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Common Censored. Thanks for being here, all of you censored commoners. This is Common Censored. I'm Lord Sterling, and this is episode 283. U.S. missiles strike Russia. Impeachment articles drafted against Joe Biden. 25th Amendment talks in the works. Princeton emeritus professor saying Earth is in a CO2 famine, which is the exact opposite of what the woke climate change scumbags are trying to tell you. Howard Lutnick chosen for Commerce Secretary. All kinds of cool stuff. We'll get to that Stallone story we never got to yesterday at some point as well, hopefully. Make sure to join us Monday through Friday, 6:45 p.m.-ish Eastern Time as we cover all the crazy clown world clusterfuck chaos that is 2024, and it's not releasing yet. They're going harder. They're doubling down. Use hashtag Common Censored and hashtag Info Infantry when you share the broadcast. You can find us on X at Lord Sterling _. Thanks again to all of our new followers on Rumble. I appreciate you guys. Links to all the stories we covered today, articles, videos, etc. will be posted down in the video description on Rumble immediately following the termination of the broadcast. So if you're watching this later, you can skip down to the bottom. Look at all the stuff we talk about. Mama Mac will be adding timestamps to the show notes as well. So after the episode, if you need to focus and maximize the efficiency of your time and attention, if you're watching this later, find the topics that interest you, jump right to the point in the podcast where we talk about it. Boom. Thanks, Mama Mac. Throw Mama Mac some love over at alplama.com. ALPLAMA.com, your new herbal health guru. Avoid the petrochemical pharmaceutical industry that wants you sick and dependent. And get some natural tinctures from Mama Mac and fam at alplama.com. Thanks, Mama Mac. Love you. Alplama. Yuck. And if you want to support the show directly, hit up our link tree at Common Censored. We'll be reading Rumble rants throughout the broadcast if anybody is inclined. Thanks for keeping the studio lights blinding my eyes and keeping Loki's belly full of delicious treats, guys. Appreciate it. Disclaimer. Views expressed on Common Censored are only opinions. Assume everything we say is false and research for yourself. We're not giving medical, legal, or financial advice. The only advice we are giving is think for yourself. Question authority. Think for yourself. Question authority. Boom! I hope you guys like that intro. The woke matrix meme. I thought it was pretty funny, but unfortunately, it's not all fun and games today, as the globalist run West is playing with nuclear hellfire. The BlackRock-controlled Demon Rat Party is trying to start World War III before Trump takes office in merely 61 days, doing everything they can to stoke conflict. Now they have officially launched missiles into Russia, American missiles through the proxy country, Ukraine, who fired 6 ATACMS into Russia's Bryansk region. 5 were intercepted, while fragments from 1 caused a fire at a military facility. No casualties or serious damage have been reported. The ministry confirmed that's good, but it seems like there's going to be a lot more of these being launched in the near future, potentially up to hundreds a week. So hold your breath, guys. Cross your fingers. We don't want World War III. Russia has accused Ukraine of escalating the conflict by deploying these long-range U.S.-supplied missiles in the border area. And of course, these missiles require NATO tracking and targeting systems. So this is effectively NATO, aka the U.S., striking Russia. Not good. The nuclear doctrine has been updated by Putin at this point also to declare that if any states, countries backed by nuclear powers attack them, it will be considered joint belligerency by both of the countries. So this is a little bit dangerous. Poso posted this. Breaking. Ukraine has used U.S. long-range missiles to strike within Russia for the first time. Not good, guys. Let's watch a couple seconds at the start of this Alex Jones episode as he sums everything up very quickly.
Ladies and gentlemen, NATO began bombing today inside Russia, blowing up Russian military bases. Putin's promised nuclear war by Christmas if it doesn't stop. Stay with us.
InfoWars. Tomorrow's news today.
We are 61 days, 23 hours, 59 minutes, 42 seconds until the inauguration of Trump. And as I told you what happened, the globalists are trying to launch World War III before then. The president agrees with that and has made similar statements. The military-industrial complex is trying to get us into World War III before he takes office. His son made the point 2 days ago. Now Trump has made it. It is Tuesday, November 19th, 2024. You're seeing footage of long-range, high-speed, U.S.-made ATACMS missiles blowing up a Russian military base 300 kilometers inside Russia. And they're promising to rain down hundreds of these a week inside Russia to elicit a massive response. This is a proxy war between the West and Russia. Imagine if Russia said, we're going to start bombing targets in the United States, or if in Vietnam, the Vietnamese said, we're going to start attacking targets inside the United States. Or in the Korean War, if Korea started launching attacks inside the United States, what would you do? This is the absolute insane brinksmanship of the globalist. Putin had announced the policy change 2 months ago. Now it's official today. Russia reserves the right to strike any NATO country or all NATO countries at the same time with nuclear weapons because of this.
Right, Donna.
And he said we could have nuclear war by Christmas if the escalation does not stop. And that's in all the main threat escalation maps and war games by Russia, by the United States, by China, by NATO. So that is not a bluff. That is where this is going. It is indescribable how insane this is. And when the Justice Department tried to shut us down again last week without a court order, just like
Me
they
too,
did on
Mama
May
Mac.
31st, I said they're trying to kill Trump on May 31st. I said, watch, this isn't about me. This is so illegal what they're doing and so unlawful. Something bigger is about to happen. And then I said last week they're getting ready to launch World War III or something along those lines. The orders have come out to get us off the air. The Justice Department even admitted that to my...
Yep, they don't want him on the air. Same thing I've been saying. It's just seemed inevitable this whole time that if Trump won, they were going to do anything in their power to cause any and all chaos beforehand. We saw last week they've already put out the orders to mobilize protesters for the inauguration. Shit is going to hit the fan. They're trying to start World War III, potentially to declare some type of continuity of government or martial law, prevent the power transfer entirely. Who knows? I meme, therefore I am, at I'm meme0 posted this one. Breaking: Russian President Vladimir Putin signed a decree revising the country's nuclear policy, allowing for the use of nuclear weapons in response to a large-scale conventional attack on Russian territory. This move follows Ukraine's first ATACMS strike inside Russian territory, which came after President Biden authorized the transfer of long-range U.S. weapons to Ukraine. Mere months ago, they were authorizing these types of things behind the scenes, and Biden was saying, well, I don't want to do it publicly because it could start World War III. But now you're doing it publicly, bro. Like, this could start World War III, and you're doing it anyway. It's freaking absurd, man. You could almost say that it's, pure evil.
It's pure evil!
These fucking bastards.
Is what we got from Vladimir Putin was signing into a decree allowing Russia to fire nuclear weapons in response to any kind of massive conventional attack on its soil. That would include drones. That would include presumably long-range missiles. That Russia would view aggression against itself or its allies by non-nuclear state backed by other nuclear powers as a joint attack. In summary, basically saying that if there was an attack on Russia by a member of a coalition that will be seen as an attack by
Later, poet of militants.
the full coalition, i.e., even if it's a non-nuclear power aided by a nuclear power, that would be seen as a joint attack. This is something that Putin has been talking about signing into as a decree since September. This is officially happening now, and it comes, obviously, Francine, just on the heels of that sort of news that we got from Joe Biden, basically permitting the Ukrainians to begin using some of these ATACMS within Russian territory in the Kursk region, not sort of all across Russia, but within that region. They have a range of about 300 kilometers. And this is coming at a time right now when we understand, again, from Ukrainian news agencies, that those first missiles have been deployed. So
who knows, Bill? Maybe Biden is committed, but the people who are pulling his little gross, grungy little puppet strings, they're definitely not committed to that. Definitely not committed. Let's hop over to Mario Nawfal next. Also covering it at Mario Nawfal. Russia begins mass production of nuke-proof bomb shelters. Ruh-roh. They're gearing up for conflict. Unfortunately, the mobile bomb shelters can protect against a variety of man-made threats and natural disasters, including radiation. The KUB-M, the KUBM shelter, looks like a reinforced shipping container and can be deployed in Russia's vast northern permafrost. Whew, it's heating up, guys. Let's get Glenn Beck's take at Glenn Beck, Glenn with 2 N's on X. Why would Joe Biden allow Ukraine to fire American-made long-range missiles into Russia, knowing that this is Putin's nuclear red line? He's risking World War III with just 62 days left in office. This is impeachable. Yes, it's very much impeachable. And people are like, oh, well, if you impeach him, you just get Kamala. Yes, it sucks, and all the merch will have to be changed to 48 instead of 47, but you're missing the point. We, the people, need to send a big, perfectly clear international message to Russia and to Putin that we do not back this conflict. We're not interested in World War III. We don't want any problems with Russia. So even if it means we have to change the merch, from 47 to 48, 48 is still a cool number. Maybe not quite, doesn't have quite the ring, but we need to send that message to Russia. Putin needs to be dissuaded from launching a retaliatory nuclear strike. Cash would be awesome as AG. Skunk, has there been any announcement yet thus far? That would be awesome. Yeah, they're definitely going to get Gates in as AG2. Mark my words, they will get him in. So let's check out Glenn Beck's take here.
So last night, after a day ago, 2 days ago, we finally heard that the president had.
And fucking Kamala is on vacation right now. As usual, she's just fucking lurking down in the beach in Hawaii, apparently. And there's been rumors that Doug Emhoff has filed for divorce, which would be interesting.
Given Ukraine
April, what's up, April?
To use these U.S. long-range missiles at Russia.
Exactly.
Ukrainian troops launched an attack against a Russian border region with 6 U.S. long-range missiles.
We need cash.
This comes
FBI.
after, again, Putin approved the updated doctrine lowering the threshold for the use of nuclear weapons. How many times has this guy given us a red line and said, don't cross this or it will be World War III? And we've crossed it every single time. For a man who's backed in the corner, a man who is a bloodthirsty killer, you don't keep backing him into a corner. Or what happens? Eventually, he says, I'll have absolutely no credibility, and his people who have just been bombed with U.S. missiles, which he just said 2 days ago, will be an act of war, has got to say, you know what? The worst thing I can do is not act because I'll lose all credibility in my own country and throughout the rest of the world.
Maybe, but it's possible that if he holds off, doesn't retaliate, lets Trump get in office, lets this de-escalate, it could transform his reputation in a positive way into a man of peace who was patient, who knew that the dawn was just over the horizon, and who refused to succumb to the goading and the saber rattling of the globalists. So it's possible that if Putin holds off, that it could actually be a positive in the long run for his reputation and for his image.
We have entered a moment of madness. What Joe Biden did is impeachable.
This is madness.
Who launches 62 days before you're out of the office? Who starts World War III? By the way, there's a couple of other things you should know. This isn't the only thing going on. There's been a couple of other things. First of all, they cut some telecommunication cables. Who? We don't know, but we suspect the Chinese. The Chinese ship Yi Peng is the main suspect in an investigation now on who cut 2 underseas telecom cables between Finland and Germany. Why would you cut cables between Finland and Germany? Well, if you're going to restore the Soviet Empire, Finland was part of that Soviet Empire. They've been the ones saying, please stop all this madness. That was cut. Oh, also the telecommunications lines between Sweden and Lithuania. Sweden was an allied. Lithuania was an Axis. Lithuania was under Soviet rule as well. The ship sailed right over the cables when they were cut 8 a.m. on Sunday and 2 a.m. on Monday.
And weren't we talking about that as a possibility last week? We talked about that on this show, that there might be efforts to cut some of these internet cables and stuff like that.
Gang, things could be different by lunchtime. Pray for your country. Pray that Vladimir Putin does not strike a NATO country, even with a conventional bomb. Pray that this madman will listen to Donald Trump and realize this is over in 62 days. But then again, the guy wants to collapse the United States of America. As I told you, if Trump wins, one of the things I'm very worried about is terrorism and war. That the the left is so insane that they have this, if I can't have you, no one will.
Right.
That they've
Exactly.
been backed into a corner. They have everything riding on it. They've got to bring it down before Trump gets in. It was the worst case scenario. Pray the bloodthirsty madman in Russia.
It's not true, bro. He's not a bloodthirsty madman. He was forced into this. He didn't want any of this. They were bombing ethnic Russians in the Donbass region since the U.S. took over with the Maidan coup in 2014. Putin didn't want any of this.
Is more sensible than this senile old bastard in the White House.
Boom. Threeper just shared some good news too in the chat or into my Discord. Trump gives one-word response when asked if he's reconsidering Matt Gaetz' AG nomination. Quote, "Mr. President, are you reconsidering the nomination of Matt Gaetz?" Trump was asked. "No," he replied before walking away. He's been leveraging all of his political power, calling up members in the Senate and saying, listen, we will have AG Gaetz, telling Thune, you will push him through. Otherwise, I'll appoint him in a recess appointment or with the 1998, whatever that act is. I have a story about it, but yep, good news, Threeper. He's not going to back down on Gaetz. Gaetz is the guy we need, and I got a lot more information about Gaetz coming up as well. Next, let's hop over to Clint Russell talking about this whole situation at Liberty Lock Pod. Never seen a better example of the worthlessness of Congress. Joe Biden is launching missiles into Russia via his Ukrainian proxy, and Mike Johnson is standing up boldly to declare men can't use women's restrooms in Congress about Nancy Mace's bill that she introduced to prevent the transes from going in there and disturbing the women in the bathrooms. I think that's a good idea. That's right, Skunk Thune, better bend over. What's up, Dirk? Doik! Dirk Gently. How's it going, brother? Let's check out Mike Johnson over here, completely not talking about the important issues. Ooh, nice, Wendy. You're on page 50 of book 1 of my novel screenplay hybrid series, The Core Saga. Nice. Let me know what you think.
Hello, everybody. I just want to make a statement for all of you here and be
Got
very
that Roswell
clear.
scene.
I was asked a question this morning at the leadership gaggle, and I rejected the premise because the answer is so obvious. For anybody who doesn't know my well-established record on this issue, let me be unequivocally clear. A man is a man, and a woman is a woman.
Women's is women's.
Become a woman. That said, I also believe, that's what Scripture teaches, what I just said, but I also believe that we treat everybody with dignity. And so we can do and believe all those things at the same time. And I wanted to make that clear for everybody because there's lots of questions. But that's where I stand. I've stood there my whole life, and those are facts.
Awesome,
Hello,
Mac.
everybody.
Yeah. So, Mike Johnson, get on target here. We're in the middle of a proxy war with Russia, and they could declare war at any moment. Steve Gruber commenting on it. Ukraine just lobbed American missiles into Russia. I'm absolutely mortified. These people are out of their fucking minds trying to get you killed, me killed, and trying to get World War III. Do these assholes want a war? Do they want your kids and grandkids to go fight in Europe for a country we have no real connection to? That's right. Fuck Ukraine. Well, the people are cool, but fuck Zelensky and the leadership. These people are tyrant scumbags.
I'm absolutely mortified. Ukraine just lobbed American missiles into Russia. Do these assholes want a war? Do they want your kids and your grandkids to go fight in Europe for a country we have no real connection to? Not a NATO partner, not a true ally? Seriously, what are they doing? These people are out of their fucking minds. Trying to get you killed, me killed, and trying to get World War III started before Joe Biden gets kicked out of office. This is completely unacceptable, completely out of line. These people have clearly lost their fucking minds. I'm absolutely mortified.
Clearly lost their fucking minds. Actually, they haven't. They're just trying to start World War III. This was all part of the plan. We saw it coming months ago. They're crazy like a fox trying to pull off their takeover still. But they are still crazy, of course, out of their minds. Russia, World War III, Trump, Americans trying to pay their bills, mind their own business. Biden, boom. I'm thinking he's a cool guy, not looking at explosions. but he's wrong. He's a loser. Let's hop over to Ben Swan at Ben Swan, Swan with 2 N's _ on X. Here's something you may not know about these long-range missiles Ukraine is preparing to fire deep into Russia, which they have now. Their systems can only be operated by Americans, the targeting, tracking systems. This means U.S. troops firing U.S. missiles from Ukraine deep into Russia, or at least U.S. troops controlling the missiles being fired from inside of Russia. Peg McGroin! Don't mind if I do. What's up, Peg? Thanks for joining us. What greater provocation of nuclear war could there possibly be? Let's check this out. Ben Swan with Dave Smith. I like Dave Smith, man.
And something that the viewers may not understand about these ATACMS missiles, right? They cannot be operated by the Ukrainians. The system is set up in a way that it has to be U.S. soldiers who are on the ground and U.S. soldiers who are firing them from Ukraine. This is what happened when those same missiles were fired a few months ago, remember, and they hit some different areas in Crimea along the beach. And one of the things that the Russians pointed out at the time was they said, look, we know that it's the U.S. who's firing these.
Yep, real quick. Forgot to say thank you to Free Castle for rating the broadcast before we started. It was too late for me to man the battlements, arm the parapets, launch the cows, and dump the hot oil. But thank you so much for rating. We're going to raid Live Fire podcast at the end of our show, where Free Castle will be guesting tonight. So thanks again, Free Castle. We're going to raid the show for you later on.
So the idea that these missiles would be allowed to be fired deep into Ukraine means that we are admitting we are going to use U.S. military to fire U.S. missiles from Ukraine into Russia. If there is not a greater provocation for nuclear war, I don't know what else there would be.
Right, and think about the standard that
Sixth Sense. Thanks for joining us. Yep,
their enemies. So if the U.S. invades Iraq, and then some Shiites, fire some missiles and hit a U.S. base. Well, that's Iran. Iran is now responsible, or Bashar al-Assad is now responsible. Whatever regime we want to overthrow is now. We consider that a direct act of war, even though it was an illegal invasion halfway around the world, and nobody can really defend that our troops should be there at all. And yet, in this example, like if we, apply the same standard, well, then what are we looking at here? We're looking at the United States of America declaring war on Russia, the holders of the largest stockpile of nuclear weapons in the history of the world.
It's insane, man. It's completely insane. Since we mentioned the bill in Congress and the House to get rid of the transes in the girls' bathrooms. Nancy Mace at Rep Nancy Mace on X posted this one. This is the exact type of man I don't want in the women's restroom with me. He says he's going to grab my ratty-looking fucking hair, drag my face to the floor, repeatedly bash my head until I bleed everywhere, and kill me. Yeah, these people are unhinged. They should not be in the bathroom with women. Let's watch this little video here, then we'll continue with the Russia situation.
This video goes out to Congresswoman Nancy Mace. Congresswoman Nancy Mace, I hope that one day I do find you in that women's bathroom and I grab your ratty looking fucking hair and drag your face down to the floor while I repeatedly bash it in until the blood's everywhere and you're dead.
Stormblade!
Thank you. I hope that Nancy Mace receives this message well.
Wow,
Kisses.
You're a fucking evil weirdo, and I hope you get arrested for threatening a sitting congressman. Next, let's jump over to this exclusive on InfoWars with Francis Boyle, who called all of the COOF stuff back in January 2021. No, sorry, 2020. As all this was unfolding, all of his predictions, all of his claims have been retroactively vindicated and proven subsequently. But here he is after having drafted articles of impeachment against Joe Biden for illegally bombing Russia. And we'll get to the next part of this in a second. Republican senators and House members calling for Biden's removal under the 25th Amendment. Former top UN war crimes prosecutor and the guy who wrote the UN biological weapons doctrine, Francis Boyle, joins Alex Jones. Let's watch some of this.
As you know, this new attack with the ATACMS, technically, under the international laws of war, this qualifies as an act of war. and President Putin would be entitled to treat an act of war by the United States of America. And President Putin would be entitled to treat this as an act of war and respond accordingly. And indeed, as you know, he has already stated that an attack by a non-nuclear state in cooperation with a nuclear state such as the United States would make both states co-belligerents against Russia. So the predicate is set there for a war between Russia and the United States. You recall we discussed this, I think it was a year ago, about the dangers presented. It does seem to me that what Biden, or if you want to call them the Bidenites, are trying to do is to sabotage President Trump's peace initiative for Ukraine that he has spoken about, and also Vice President-elect Vance has spoken about, and that they both truly want to set into place, which I believe they can do. And what they have done now is significantly ratchet it up, make it more dangerous. And in my opinion, the Bidenites would like to get us into a shooting war with Russia.
One of the takes I heard yesterday was that I thought was pretty good is that they're trying to set up Ukraine right now to be in the best negotiating position possible when January 20th comes around, so that they have as many weapons as they can give them, as much money as they can, to give them as much leverage as possible to try to regain their territories and stuff when the negotiations begin with Russia and Donald Trump at the helm. Thought that was probably pretty accurate.
So that they could hand that over to President Trump and make it extremely difficult for him to pursue a peaceful resolution over
yes,
Ukraine.
Anti-Chat, we are live.
My motivation behind drafting these 3 articles of impeachment
Thanks for joining us.
Is to get the member of the House to introduce them immediately into the House of Representatives. This could be done orally by any member getting up there and reading. The Republicans are in control of the House. They can call an immediate vote. They could have Biden impeached by the end of the week.
Sixth Sense.
And that bill of impeachment, the indictment, would then be shipped to the Senate for a trial. In my opinion, doing that would discombobulate the Biden administration. They'd be dead in the water, hopefully dealing with this impeachment effort and buying us time necessary to get to the inauguration on January 20th. That's my strategy as I see it.
Boom, and I think he's got a really good point. The intent isn't to replace Joe Biden with Kamala Harris. Nobody wants that. But the point is to send a message internationally and to Russia and Putin that we, the people, are not interested in this. By beginning 25th Amendment talks, by beginning impeachment talks, we can send a big, bold, 100-sized font message to Putin saying, hold off, the American people are not backing these losers. We're being hijacked and they're attacking you without the consent of the people. So I think that's the major point. Obviously, none of us want Kamala in there. We don't want to have to rebrand the merch from 47 to 48. But we do need to send a message to Putin because he's definitely been holding out for all these months, knowing that Trump could get back in, and we don't want him to think that we wanted to dissuade him from launching a retaliatory nuclear strike by any means possible, even if it means Trump has to be 48, in my opinion.
While other networks lie to you.
Let's check out
humanity's darkest.
Let's jump over next to the 25th Amendment talks, political speculation amidst international tensions. We have the trending topic over here, which will be in the show notes after the fact. But we have another clip from Jones breaking down the situation as Republican leaders call for Biden's immediate removal under the 25th Amendment in response to his insane bombing of Russia. This is indeed an unconstitutional act of war. Let's watch some of this.
Representative Thomas Massey says Biden's greenlighting striking Russia an unconstitutional act of war, impeachable offense by authorizing long-range missiles to strike inside Russia. Biden is committing an unconstitutional act of war that endangers the lives of all U.S. citizens. This is an impeachable offense, but the reality is he's an emasculated puppet of the deep state, Massey said yesterday. So this was out last night before the bombs started dropping inside Russia. Yes, our government is bombing inside Russia with giant red mushroom clouds. Last 24 hours, Ukraine fired ATACMS into Russian territory, a clear escalation of war, a massive escalation. So what? One, Harris should immediately invoke, not like so what, who cares, like so what do we do? Number one, Harris should immediately invoke the 25th Amendment and remove Biden, his sleepwalking us into World War III. Let's at least put the constitutional pressure on Harris because Joe's poor memory make him unaccountable.
While other networks lie to you about what's happening now, InfoWars tells you the truth about what's happening next. Visit Infowars.com/show and share the link today.
Putin put out a statement saying nuclear war by Christmas on the current escalation trajectory. In response, Congressman Massey and many other Republicans said Biden is greenlighting total war, nuclear war. The story's up on Infowars.com. Representative Thomas Massey says Biden greenlighting striking Russia an unconstitutional act of war and impeachable offense. They're also calling for the 25th Amendment to be invoked. So is General Flynn.
We have that
and the
video
issue
in a moment
is,
as well.
obviously, Biden's not in control. Then you've got Kamala Harris. And then she has a pretext during the escalated war to have Trump assassinated. They'll claim he's a Russian agent, as they already are. Declare martial law, launch a cyber attack, claim the Russians have done it, cut off a lot of the power across the country. That's what they've been pre-programming. That's what I've been warning of. They launch a war with Russia, escalate, knock a bunch of power out, blame it on the Russians, use that to turn off the internet. You'll still get government feeds, but the internet kill switch that Obama put in place means you only get government and establishment feeds. And we go into total civil unrest, martial law. And there is a very good chance, as I warned before this happened in months and weeks and days past, that they would start striking Russia during the 76 days that he was president-elect. In fact, I said right the day after Trump won, on November 6th, I said good chance they, the next few weeks, start bombing Russia. And then that will be used as an excuse to launch cyber attacks inside the U.S., blame Russia, claim Trump is a Putin ally because he doesn't want World War III, kill Trump and Vance or have them arrested, remove Biden, install Kamala Harris, and now it's all happening. So, of course, they had the Justice Department last week without the sale even happening, criminally come in here and turn the power off. That is all part of the military operation. We're now under attack. This is America 2024 on November 19th.
So Massey pushing for 25th Amendment. General Flynn warning Biden's bombing of Russia has lit the fuse that will trigger World War III. Former head of the Defense Intelligence Agency calls for Biden's immediate removal under the 25th Amendment.
So the outcome or the consequence, especially with what Putin said recently in his statement, everybody needs to go and listen to what he basically said. He said that there will be an action, there will be a consequence to this very provocative step that the West is taking, because Putin recognized immediately that Ukraine can't handle these. This is not a system in their inventory, nor is it a capability that they have. They have to use other means, meaning they have to use other countries to leverage the way that this weapon system can be used. So there is going to be a consequence. I don't know what that consequence is. It would be speculation, but I will tell you that this almost feels like the West and principally the United States of America is taking NATO into a place where we don't have any business being. And instead of fighting for peace, as President Trump has continued to say, what is happening is these people are taking us to war. Trump is going to have to get on the phone with world leaders now and start, and he's probably going to have to put himself into the presidency, into the president mode, even though there's, like we always say, there's only one president at a time. But Trump needs to say,
I would have, if I was Trump, I would have hopped on the first, Trump Force One, the first private plane that he owns to the White House. I would have walked in there live streaming on my phone and been like, what the fuck is going on here? We don't want this. The American people voted against this. What is going on? I demand an audience with Biden. I'm going to be the president in a couple months. You're trying to sabotage me, live streaming the whole time. That's what he should have done. broadcasting it out to everybody.
Hey, we need to have cool heads prevail here. We cannot have these provocative measures taken. And I wrote about this in the paper as well, that this is what happened to me in 2016 in my very famous phone call with the Russian ambassador, Ambassador Kislyak, the Russian ambassador to Russia. And I had the phone call with him, and I said, and I verbally, I mean, almost specifically said, we got to let cool heads prevail here. Let the Trump administration come into office, and we'll have a different conversation, because we view things completely differently than the Obama administration. And you saw what happened to me. I mean, they lied through their teeth about that. Well, the same thing is going to start to happen in here, but we have to have conversations where sane leaders with good common sense who do not want to take us into World War III prevail. If we don't have that, we are going to have a very difficult couple of months here.
Exactly, Craig. Yeah, and Brett, no, I'm not a Putin shill. It's like you speak common sense. And they're like, Russian propagandist. It's like, oh, if I drink water, and Hitler just so happened to drink water. Am I following the Hitler diet? Am I a Hitler guy now? Delicious water. Of course, that makes me a Hitler supporter now, doesn't it?
Networks
No
lie to you
logic,
about what's
man.
happening now. InfoWars tells you the truth about what's happening next. Visit InfoWars.com/show and share the link today.
All right, we're back live. General Flynn is coming on in minutes with emergency information. We are the closest to World War III, hands down. No military analyst denies it, that we've ever been. Putin has said if the U.S. starts firing missiles into Russia, that Russia will officially be at war with the United States. It's their default position. He said that 2 months ago, a month ago, and today. And now it's all over the Russian news that they are fully at war with every NATO country, including the United States and the UK.
I got coffee too, Mama Mac.
That's
Don't
where
worry.
we are.
I always have the water. You guys just don't
on
see
Tuesday,
it.
November 19th, 2024,
usually
at 11:34 Central Standard Time. Every one of your lives is in the most danger it's ever been. Our very futures all hang in the balance. And what did I tell you? Probably over 1,000 times in the last year. If Trump is able to override the fraud, if we're able to do it,
I told you
their
too.
main move will be bombing inside Russia to escalate into total war. This is
Painfully obvious.
Megalomaniac madness. This is Hitler-level crap. We have a degenerate, out-of-control establishment. Most of them don't even understand military systems. You've got a bunch of banker families represented by BlackRock, and their whole global Ponzi schemes coming down. And we are trying to get Trump into stabilized stuff, and the U.S. will actually be dominant for another 100 years if we just do this. They sucked our power, used it to set up their global government. Now the whole world's turned against it. Their entire Great Reset is falling on its face, and their answer is put a gun to the American people in the world's head of nuclear Russian roulette.
Boom. Perfect description. Bulldozer. The system is thrashing about like a wounded animal. Trump is the trap, and the system is the coyote. It's flailing. It's in its own refuse, and it's begun to gnaw its limb off. Yeah, sounds about right. Bulldozer, turn in the chat avocado with a rumble rant. Appreciate you, brother.
And this isn't like playing Russian roulette where you got 6 cylinders, only one of them's got a .357 Magnum.
Yeah, it's like 4 are loaded.
This is like playing Russian roulette with 3 bullets in it. You spin it. It's like 50-50 right now. We're going to have a nuclear war. And that's the mainline analysis. This is totally over the top, maximum insanity right now. And Trump and others have come out and said, this is a military-industrial complex trying to start World War III before he gets in office. 62 days.
Absolutely, Omega.
Congressman Massey says start impeachment of Biden immediately. 25th Amendment as well. That's exactly what General Flynn is saying.
Let's skip ahead to
Do
Flynn. Actually, we've covered it quite a good amount. I think you guys get the gist. All the links to these full interviews will be posted in the show notes following the broadcast. So we're going to keep going and cover the full waterfront, the gamut, the full spectrum of news going on. But all the details with these full interviews will be posted in the show notes underneath in the video description on Rumble and on X underneath the broadcast as soon as the show ends. For now, let's continue on to other news because I don't want to bore you guys. We'll keep up the frenetic pace as much as possible. George at BHizzy Tweets posted this one. It's official. President Trump just announced that Howard Lutnick will be Commerce Secretary. Lutnick wants to eliminate income tax and fund the government using tariffs. We really are about to enter a new golden age. Wow. Check this out.
When was America great? At the turn of the century, our economy was rocking. This is 1900, 125 years ago. we had no income tax.
Donna, I mean, the Supreme Court could come out and reveal the Brunson decision and remove Biden from office immediately if all of those rumors are true, along with like hundreds of members of Congress. They should do it. They should do it right now to stop World War, get rid of the executive leadership, replace it with the true winner of 2020, which is Trump, and end it right now. Come on, come on, SCOTUS. Release the Brunson decision. Sorry, I'll rewind a couple seconds.
Years ago, we had no income tax.
This must be where Trump got this
and all
concept
we
from.
Had was tariffs. All we had was tariffs.
We're going to get rid of the income tax, guys.
So much money that we had the greatest businessmen of America get together to try to figure out how to spend it. That's who we were then. But then we had...
It's not on the docket, supposedly, Donna, because it's already been decided on, potentially. Hopefully they'll come out and release the decision. Apparently it's being kept secret at the moment to not cause chaos and panic.
World War I and we had World War II. And we felt we had a duty
That's right,
to
Alpha Boss.
rebuild the rest of the world. So here's what we did. We took down our protection. We took down our tariffs. And we turned instead and we taxed Americans so that
Crime.
we could export the power of our economy and save the rest of the world.
I hope so, Donna.
Which we did. Now let me ask you a question. What decade should that have ended? Should it have ended in the 80s?
Yes.
The 90s?
Yes.
2000?
Yes.
What in the world are we doing? We're letting the rest of the world eat our lunch. And it is time to make America great again.
Let's do it. Let's get rid of the income tax, get rid of the Federal Reserve, start the tariffs up again. We'll have so much money we won't know what to do with it. All of that income tax that people aren't paying can go into starting new businesses, creating new job opportunities. With all the regulations that get cut, there will be ample opportunity for innovation and development and the return of productivity and industrialism in this country. We need to do it. That's right, Donna. And the IRS and the Fed, they were created together. They can die together, metaphorically speaking, of course. And it's time to move on and bring the actual American dream to fruition. We've never quite made it happen, but now with all the technology at our disposal, with the ample resources that we could have, with the energy technology that's being kept secret, etc., we can propel ourselves into something beyond a new golden age, a new like platinum age. That's what we're going to be calling it. It's going to be awesome. We just got to avoid World War III and make sure we get these people in. Jake Sherman posted this one at Jake Sherman on X. Trump has nominated Dr. Oz to be administrator of CMS. Statement from President Trump saying, I'm very pleased to nominate Dr. Mehmet Oz to serve as the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, CMS, administrator. America is facing a healthcare crisis, and there may be no physician more qualified and capable than Dr. Oz to make America healthy again. Dr. Ron Paul would be more qualified, but he doesn't want a job, so he's kind of out of the running. Oz is an eminent physician, heart surgeon, inventor, and world-class communicator who has been at the forefront of healthy living for decades. Dr. Oz will work closely with RFK Jr. to take on the illness industrial complex, ooh, nice prose there, and all the horrible chronic diseases left in its wake. Our broken healthcare system harms Americans everyday Americans, and crushes our country's budget. Dr. Oz will be a leader in incentivizing disease prevention so we can get the best results in the world for every dollar we spend on healthcare in our great country. He will also cut waste and fraud within our country's most expensive government agency, which is a third of our nation's healthcare spend and a quarter of our entire national budget. Dr. Oz graduated from Harvard, earned a joint MD and MBA degree at the University of Pennsylvania School of Medicine and Wharton Business School, Trump's powerful alma mater. He rose to become professor of surgery at Columbia University while receiving numerous patents on his medical inventions, authorizing more than 400 original publications, and publishing numerous New York Times best-selling books. I don't trust him, but hopefully RFK Jr. can keep him under control. And if he's loyal to Trump, I'm sure it's better than a lot of other potential picks. What do you guys think about Dr. Oz? Let me know in the chat. I don't know too much about him, to be honest, but what I have known hasn't made me particularly excited about him. Skunk71, that lady from FEMA today, said 22,000 plus employees. What are they doing? Passing out water donated by civilians. Damn, you got a link? I don't know what's going on with that. Yeah, Ed, I hope I get me some lizard people before the platinum age. Fuck yeah, bro. I agree. Make sure you're locked and loaded in case they come for you, guys. Let's see what we got next on the list. We have Georgia, the appeals court canceling Trump RICO case hearing. People think that this is the end of the RICO situation down in Georgia. Fanny, you got some splaining to do, Fanny. Just in from Laura Loomer, the Court of Appeals of the state of Georgia just canceled the oral argument that was scheduled to take place on December 5th for the appeal of the attempted disqualification of Fani Willis in the Trump RICO case. Looks like the Georgia case, as applied to President Trump, is dead, says Mark R. Levin. If not now, it will be. Let's hop over to ACLJ and get their take.
So in Georgia,
and these guys have been Trump lawyers, etc. Wendy Wild, where's Ben Carson? Yeah, that would have been a good pick. He said yesterday that he's not going to be Surgeon General. Thanks, Bill, for sending that update in the chat. Hopefully they get him for something good, though, because I think he would be a valuable asset. Absolutely.
So in Georgia, in that case brought by Fani Willis, and you remember Nathan Wade, who had to step away from the case after taking nearly $1 million of taxpayer money as a specialist in RICO who had never done a RICO case. So that case, which had multiple defendants from the Trump world, it was really one of the, I'd say, top, if you want to talk about persecution, not just prosecution, but persecution of those who were advising President Trump on different options he had as president. Some of those options might have been wrong. Some of those options might have been right legally. Others were just thinking about ideas. You know, has this been tried? Has this ever been tried in an actual court, even if it's a long shot? And yet they use that as a potential for crimes. This case, remember, was up on appeal because the lower court judge said that Fani Willis did not have to remove herself from the case, recuse herself from the case, if Nathan Wade was actually removed. And the Trump legal team, rightfully so, said, no, you can't just remove him. She's the biggest wrongdoer here by bringing him on. And this entire prosecution, she needs to be removed from, and this DA's office needs to be reviewed from. Well, that got appealed to the Georgia Court of Appeals. But yesterday, late in the afternoon, the Georgia Court of Appeals canceled oral arguments that were actually scheduled for next month on whether she should have to fully recuse herself. And again, now all we got in the order was the case is hereby canceled until further order of this court. No explanation. And of course, Will, people are trying to figure out exactly, trying to read the tea leaves on a very short and simple statement, but yet another major delay in a case that's not even about whether President Trump or the other defendants should these continue to be fought in court, but whether or not she should even be there.
That's right. It's a simple one-sentence order about the oral argument scheduled to take place on December 5th, 2024 at 10:30 a.m. is hereby canceled until further order of this court. Now, we know that the lower court judge had basically laid out the roadmap of how the appeals court could take Fani Willis off. He pointed to things that were improper, if not illegal. He mentioned the odor of mendacity lingering in this case. And so it was long thought that the Court of Appeals may remove Fani Willis from this case. This sets up a level of intrigue now about what happens next. And we're going to have Professor Harry Hutchison on in the next segment to discuss maybe some of those options, because now there is a completely different set of facts and a world surrounding this case now that President Trump has been reelected, as well as the Supreme Court order on immunity. When many of these issues that happen, the phone calls between state leaders, that Fani Willis was trying to cast as a RICO case, a corrupt organizations racketeering case, may have fallen, and indeed, based off the Supreme Court decision on immunity, would seem to fall within what would be presidentially immune as an official act of the president. So we're going to have to talk with Professor Hutchison and see what maybe some of the outcomes are. But it all points to this case also falling potentially by the wayside once again.
This is not even the appeal on the actual charges she brought. So this case has gotten really delayed.
When you look at this order on the face of it,
it's going to have to be, I see woke people. That's what it is now. 6 cents.
Actual charges she brought. So this case has gotten really delayed.
When you look at this order on the face of it, it may strike some people as, well, they can't.
Now it turns out that the Biden administration flew Laken Riley's murderer to Georgia. I think it was, got a story on that in a bit as well.
Canceled the hearing on the appeal. So isn't that a negative for President Trump? As you read the tea leaves, as Professor Hutchison brings up, it appears that the appellate court is now looking at the entire context of where this case is. One, the immunity ruling from the Supreme Court, which hadn't really been in play here, as well as that President Trump has won re-election. It gives them an opportunity at the appeals level to say, hey, we don't even need to hear this yet, this appeal, whether she should be on, because now that there's all this other context, the trial court should be the one deciding whether or not this case should even be in court before we hear an appeal on whether or not Fani Willis should remain on the case. So I think it gives the appeals court an opportunity to kick it back down to the lower court and have that issue sorted out. Judge McAfee, many observers looked at it and said he was up for re-election. And he laid out the roadmap, but then essentially moved the decision down to the appeals court for having her removed. He doesn't have that political specter hanging over him anymore. But another thing to look at, and I think this is quite interesting when it comes to the lawfare angle of this.
That's going to be investigated, J. Monty 0071. Mark my words. Trump is going to go after all these people.
Is that, remember, this was all based off of President Trump fighting hard to try to win Georgia. He was calling election officials. They hinged on his language that maybe he said, find me 11,000 votes. And he meant that literally. Go out and find them instead of look at all the places you have. Are there ballots?
The question now.
Well, find implies something that already exists. If I tell you to find something, it's because I believe it already exists out there somewhere. So Trump wasn't telling them to manufacture votes manufacture fake votes to help him. He was saying, go find the fraud. It's out there. We all know it's out there. So they spun it, lied about what Trump was really saying. Highly frustrating.
Now, Harry, I think people are probably asking is this delayed because the entire case falls, like some of what you saw with Jack Smith and others, that these cases fall because they used evidence and witnesses and testimony that the Supreme Court then said should not be allowed and cannot be allowed in court?
I think that is the answer.
Craig.
So I would argue that the Supreme Court has ruled very definitively that when presidents engage in official acts, that conduct is arguably immune from basically scrutiny by the prosecutor. Also, when presidents engage in unofficial acts, but within the purview of their constitutional power, there is a presumption that those acts are also immune. And so if we look at the Fani Willis case in Georgia, I think it is clear beyond question that the prosecution essentially relied on official conduct by President Trump. So arguably, that case should be voided. But we have the additional complication, of course, of Fani Willis's relationship with Nathan Wade. And as you correctly point out, Mr. Wade received approximately $1 million. And there is evidence in the record suggesting that Fani Willis benefited from those monies. They went on trips together. They went out for dinner together. And of course, Mr. Wade.
They bumped uglies together.
Paid at least for some of those expenses. So I suspect the Georgia Court of Appeals has read the tea leaves. They recognize this case is really going nowhere. And what they may wind up doing is remanding the case to the district court, Judge McAfee, so that he can dispose of this particular case. So I think at the end of the day, Fani Willis will be entitled to experience, and the Georgia taxpayers will be out $1 million. And essentially what we've seen is a waste of money.
Hopefully Fani Willis is entitled to some jail time, baby. Let's check out this link Ed just shared in the chat from B Blues at B Blues 100 on X. This is what they plan. is global blackouts, food shortages, and there's loads more stuff they have planned for us. Look what they're doing with Mother Russia. Let's check it out.
Global Security Outlook Report 2023. This is a result of research in collaboration with the forum's communities and our partner Accenture, in which we've interviewed and sought input from over 300 executives globally. The most striking finding that we found is that 93% of cyber leaders and 86% of cyber business leaders believe that the geopolitical instability makes a catastrophic cyber event likely in the next 2 years.
And there you have one of the World Economic Forum goons coming out and putting the warning out there once again, predicting that there's going to be a catastrophic global cyber attack within the next 2 years. This puts it right up to 2025, the exact window we've been watching and timing out this whole time and getting ready for. So Klaus Schwab came out in this ominous video and told the whole world that the lights could go out, transportation going down, everything. And now here, this guy stepping up, stating what he just said. So they are big time telegraphing a huge global cyber attack that is about to happen. I hope that you were ready. I hope that you're getting prepared, or you could sit there and not and get blindsided by it. You'd have to be a fool to know that these people telegraph their moves knowing they're doing it again and not do nothing. The same ones that lock this place down cold. Are you ready? Because this is going to be the big event. Been warning you for a decade. You better have a plan for when the lights go out. And it's just about that time. We don't have a crystal ball, don't know the exact day. That doesn't matter at this point. You should have a plan, and you should be grinding on that plan daily to get to where you need to be. If not,
food, water, ammo,
you're going to suffer greatly with everyone else that gets left in the dark when they pull the plug, and it's coming. The hourglass has been flipped. Join me on...
Yeah, sounds about right, Ed. Sounds about right. Let's check in with Trump's plan to use military on land and sea to dismantle drug and human trafficking networks in the United States.
For 3 decades before my election, drug overdose deaths increased every single year. Under my leadership, we took the drug and fentanyl crisis head on, and we achieved the first reduction in overdose deaths in more than 30 years. I also proudly signed the Support Act, the largest investment ever in combating the opioid epidemic. Sadly, under Joe Biden, our hard-won progress has been surrendered along with the surrender of our southern border. It's such a shame. Now fentanyl and other ultra-deadly poisons are pouring into our country unchecked, stealing more than 100,000 American lives every single year, and many people think that real number is 300,000 to 400,000. Joe Biden's record is one of death, destruction, and misery in communities all across our nation. When I'm back in the White House, I will take action on day one to end this horrific plague and save American lives. Joe Biden will never solve the drug overdose crisis because he is actively destroying our border. What he has done to our border.
Ooh, send a link, 6 cents. I don't think I saw that. Sounds crazy. Katie Koo, where's she been?
We had the safest border in the history of our country, and now we have the worst border probably anywhere in the world, including third world countries. That's why I have previously announced I will impose a full naval embargo on the drug cartels and deploy military assets to inflict maximum damage on cartel operations. I will insist on the full cooperation of neighboring governments to dismantle the trafficking and smuggling networks in our region, and I will ask Congress to ensure that drug dealers, kingpins, and human traffickers receive the death penalty. At the same time, I will direct federal law enforcement here in the United States to take down the gangs and organized street crime that distribute these deadly narcotics on a local level. They are killing our people. They are poisoning our beautiful children. I will permanently...
Uh-oh. Man the battlements, arm the parapets, launch the cows. We're being raided by K-Talks Radio 1013. Thanks for raiding, K-Talks. Hold the hot oil. They're friendlies, guys. Open the drawbridge. It's all good. K-Talks Radio 1013. Thanks for raiding us. Appreciate you guys. I'd love to raid you guys sometime. It's just our schedules don't line up that way. But I appreciate your continued support of this broadcast. K-Talks Radio 1013. Make sure, guys, to go subscribe to K-Talks Radio 1013 on Rumble. Thanks again, guys. Appreciate you.
Designate fentanyl as a federally controlled substance, and I will tell China that if they do not clamp down on the export of fentanyl's chemical precursors, they will pay a steep price. I had a deal worked out with President Xi. They weren't going to be sending any more, and they were going to impose the death penalty on those that made it in China. But with a rigged election, that ended. Attacking the supply of these deadly drugs will be just the beginning. We must also do more to end the scourge of addiction here at home. Among the most important steps we can take is to strengthen the pillars that give life, meaning, and hope for those struggling with addiction, in particular work, faith, and family. We need work, faith, and family. My administration will support measures to make it easier for those suffering from addiction to seek treatment without losing their jobs. We will forge new public-private partnerships for companies willing to provide job opportunities and skills training for former addicts. We will expand federal support for faith-based counseling, treatment, and recovery programs, recognizing that we are going to need God's help to steer our country out of this crisis. Finally, we will ensure that if a parent, child, spouse, or other relative needs to take time to care for a loved one fighting to overcome addiction, they are more easily able to take advantage of the family leave program, so important. When I'm president, we will not rest until we have ended the drug addiction crisis in America. We will win. It will happen. We have to win, though, in 2024, because our country is going to hell.
Luckily, we did win. So yeah, we need to eradicate the cartels. It's an actual war that we're involved with directly, as they're poisoning us and enabling the illegal, unconstitutional invasion of this country. So that's actually a real war that our military can get involved with, as opposed to these stupid proxy, globalist, garbage, New World Order conflicts all across the world that they're pushing on us. Let's see what we got next. Yes, the cavalry is forming. We've got reports of thousands of retired officers, veterans, volunteering for the unprecedented deportation effort, which will also be a really good thing for this country. The military is going to be involved with that as well, potentially. And like we talked about yesterday, Article 2 indicates that if an invasion is declared, habeas corpus can be suspended. So let's see Trump do that and just arrest everybody involved with enabling this invasion. Next, we got to talk about Joe and Mika roasted for bending the knee and visiting Trump at Mar-a-Lago to beg for mercy. Greg Foreman has a good compilation of the clips over here, so let's skim through and find the relevant material.
Flashback. As Trump's fascism is the lead story every day. His cozying up to dictators, his obsession with Hitler that has now come out, what he has said about our veterans, and what he wants to do with the military against his political adversaries. It's all huge news. This is the future that we're looking at in the next Trump term, if there is one. But this is what voters know right now, that he is killing us. I'm talking about us women. He's killing us.
And then he says that the news network that is most critical of him should be taken off the air. This is not a reach. I could go back and talk about Nazi Germany, and I do it without any concerns whatsoever. If people can't start drawing the parallels, well, you're just stupid, or you have your head in the sand, or you're one of them.
Over the past week, Joe and I have heard from so many people, from political leaders to regular citizens, deeply dismayed by several of President-elect Trump's cabinet selections, and they are scared. Last Thursday, we expressed our own concerns on this broadcast and even said we would appreciate the opportunity to speak with the president-elect himself.
Yeah, I had Trump at 1.25.
On Friday, we were given the opportunity to do just that.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. We got to talk about some hilarious but fascinating, interesting news from MSDNC this morning, featuring Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski, who apparently visited Trump at Mar-a-Lago over the weekend to bend the knee, to beg for mercy, right? It seems as if President Trump, before even getting into office, has already made his enemies fold, okay? The supreme art of war is to subdue your opponent without fighting, right? You ain't even got to fight, okay? If anybody's read The Art of War, okay, I highly recommend it. That's what's happening here, okay? I also recommend reading The Prince, Machiavelli, right? Check this book out too. I might make a recommended book list because a lot of this stuff you definitely need to read to understand what's about to happen over the next 4 years, okay? I'm just saying, okay? But Mika Brzezinski, Joe Scarborough, they have decided to detail exactly what happened during their trip to Mar-a-Lago. Now, best believe this is happening for a couple reasons, right? The main reason being that MSNBC and CNN, their ratings have failed through the roof, okay? Their ratings are tanking fast. The viewers are leaving them in droves.
It's a busy news cycle coming off the presidential election. It's a time of year news organizations bank on having high viewership, with high interest in who wins the election and reaction to the results. But some networks are seeing their post-election audience quickly evaporating. According to Nielsen ratings, MSNBC had a big election night, bringing in 6 million viewers. But the days following the election, MSNBC's viewership tanked to less than 1 million. The network losing more than half of its audience compared to its average viewership in October leading up to the election. Friday also marked the network's lowest rated non-holiday night of the year. MSNBC recorded a similar loss in viewership following the 2016 election after Trump's last presidential election victory. But the network rebounded, going on to have its 4 most watched years in its history from 2017 to 2020, as many news outlets were able to capitalize on Trump-heavy coverage with record revenue and subscribers. Following last week's election, CNN also hemorrhaged viewership. The network saw 5.1 million people tune in during their election coverage. In the days after the election, CNN's viewership also fell to 611,000, a 36% drop compared to its average viewership in October leading up to election night. Fox News saw a very different trend. While MSNBC and CNN were losing viewers, Fox News gained. On election night, the network saw over 10 million people tune in. And in the days that followed, Fox's total viewership averaged over 4 million, up 34% from its October average. That's also a 58% jump compared to its 2024 year-to-date numbers.
And the second reason why this is happening, which again is kind of related to the ratings, but it's a little bit separate, is because Trump won the popular vote, right? The majority of the country is MAGA. Did you guys watch NFL football this weekend? You saw all those players, black, white, whoever, doesn't matter. They were all doing the Trump dance, okay? On the field, celebrating after scoring touchdowns. The Trump dance is going viral. People are not afraid to come out and to openly support Trump, right? Trump is the move. Trump is the culture now, okay? And when you're not in line with the culture, again, this is what happens. What happens is that you have to bend the knee to Hitler, right? Hitler, okay? Just last week, this guy was calling Trump Hitler, and now he's singing a much different tune. Let's listen.
Good. Okay, so here's where we are. Over the past week, Joe and I have heard from so many people, from political leaders to regular citizens, deeply dismayed by several of President-elect Trump's cabinet selections, and they are scared. Last Thursday, we expressed our own concerns on this broadcast and even said we would appreciate the opportunity to speak with the president-elect himself. On Friday, we were given the opportunity to do just that. Joe and I went to Mar-a-Lago to meet personally with President-elect Trump. It was the first time we have seen him in 7 years.
Now, keep in mind, again, these people were calling Trump Hitler before the election. Why in the world are they now willing to meet with Hitler? Why are they bending the knee to Hitler? Again, it's because they know that they are deeply unpopular. They know that they have ruined their reputations throughout this whole election season, especially Joe Scarborough. Again, this guy infamously said that if you don't believe that Joe Biden is the sharpest he's ever been, then F you, right? F you. This is what he said on national television, just for Joe Biden to later drop out of the race, because
let's skip ahead a little bit.
That's essentially what they're going to explain here.
Now, we talked about a lot of issues, including abortion, mass deportation, threats of political retribution against political opponents, and media outlets. We talked about that a good bit. And it's going to come as no surprise to anybody who watches this show, has watched it over the past year or over the past decade, that we didn't see eye to eye on a lot of issues, and we told him so.
What we did agree on was to restart communications. My father often spoke with world leaders with whom he and the United States profoundly disagreed. That's a task shared by reporters and commentators alike. We had not spoken to President Trump since March of 2020, other than a personal call Joe made to Trump on the morning after the attempt on his life in Butler, Pennsylvania. In this meeting, President Trump was cheerful. He was upbeat. He seemed interested in finding common ground with Democrats on some of the most divisive issues. And for those asking why we would go speak to the president-elect during such fraught times, especially between us, I guess I would ask
Lair Bear 57,
why wouldn't
welcome. Good
5 years of political warfare has deeply divided Washington and the country. We have been as clear as we know how in expressing our deep concerns about President Trump's actions and words in the coarsening of public debate. But for nearly 80 million Americans, election denialism, public trials, and January 6th were not as important as the issues that moved them to send Donald Trump back to the White House with their vote.
AKA they lost. AKA MSNBC lost. Again, this is bending the knee. This is admitting defeat. They've been defeated. Now, as a defeated enemy, they come crawling back to Trump to beg for mercy. Again, this is...
They give away exactly why later on when they continue.
What's going on here, right? But clearly you can.
He's got the full clip. A lot of people aren't showing this full clip.
See, these people have been defeated, right? This is them waving the white flag.
Joe and I realize it's time to do something different. And that starts with not only talking about Donald Trump, but also talking with him.
As somebody close to Donald Trump told me this past weekend, this is a president who's not seeking re-election. So maybe, just maybe, now could be the time for both parties to get to work. And I know, given the jarring headlines that we read every day, that may seem like a stretch. But think about this. Of the 150 million votes cast, Donald Trump got 50%. Kamala Harris got about 49%. So I don't know. Seems to make sense for leaders of both parties to seek common ground, if it's possible at all. And I will tell you, a lot of Democratic leaders we've talked to this past week, since the election, have told Mika and me it's time for a new approach. And when I say top Democrats, I mean top Democrats. They said, we're open, and this was before we talked to Donald Trump. They said, listen, we're open to working with the incoming president if the incoming president is open to working with us.
Yeah, the question is, though, how do we get there? Hyperbole and personal attacks will not work. My hair on fire doesn't work. We've all seen that. What also does not work is threatening political opponents with arrest, harassment, and even jail. That is a failed path. Recent history has proven that impeachments and trials turn those on trial into political martyrs and only make them more popular with the American people. Just ask Bill Clinton and Donald Trump.
That's what this is really about. They think they're going to be fucking arrested for propagandizing the American public. That's what they're so scared about. So that was the telling part at the end there. That's the real issue. They're worried about being arrested. Arrested. I say, fuck them. Do it. Arrest them. They're criminals. They knew they were lying. They knew they were defrauding the public and pushing bullshit. You don't go from saying, this guy's Hitler, to saying, yeah, we went and met with him and, you know, it's not so bad after all. They lied. They committed fraud. They worked with the government to try to manipulate the American population. There needs to be consequences. How about this? Christopher G. Adamo at CG Adamo posted this one. Reposting Natalie Winters, one of my future wives. Excellent point, Natalie. Moreover, their willingness to pander at this point proves they will tell any lie in order to continue to advance their agenda. We need to be ready and watching for their treachery. It will happen the moment they think they have the opportunity. Yep. So we got Natalie Winters hosting War Room, Bannon's War Room over here. Morning Joe's willingness to meet with Trump proves their Hitler smears were all a psyop. Same for COVID, January 6th, and immigration. So you guys have heard my idea to pass a constitutional amendment to deport Democrats. We're going to need a second constitutional amendment to outlaw Natalie Winters for being too hot and smart.
I think we should have a moment of silence for the Morning Joe crowd, for whatever dignity they may have left. But I guess that's about all the silence we need because they had none to begin with. Kissing the ring, they should be washing the feet of President Trump. Their pilgrimage down to Mar-a-Lago, what you just watched on air, it was their version of a public plea deal. I guess their ratings have cratered so much, dwindled down to the tens of thousands. Maybe that's faster than we've lost all these, I guess, ghost Democratic voters. Yeah, how about this? All your talk of unity, how we need to come together. No. You guys lost. We won in an overwhelming, sweeping, mandate-style victory. We get to set the terms and conditions of what victory looks like. And save all your unity talk. Because we know what unity means. It's a Trojan horse for people like the Morning Joe crowd, establishment Republicans, to come and do a hostile land grab and subvert and convert the MAGA agenda into politics as usual. If you've seen anything from the recent cabinet picks, we're not doing politics as usual anymore. And I hope that sends shockwaves down the spinal cord of everyone, not just, shall we say, the enemy within here, but the enemy abroad. I'm looking at you, United Nations, World Economic Forum. But for all the conservative media that's now running around, oh, it's so great, Morning Joe went down to Mar-a-Lago, wow. Yeah, limited hangout. We'll give you the actual signal, not noise, here in the War Room. because it's a stunning admission that for the last 4, 5, nearly a decade of years, these people have lied to you, and they know that they've lied to you about President Trump being literally Hitler, figuratively Hitler, choose your qualifier. Right, you're all a bunch of Nazis. Well, morning, Joe. Well, morning, Mika. That I regret to inform you that you just shared a meal with Hitler.
You just shared a meal with Hitler. You sons of bitches. That's right, Bill. That's right, Bill. There's a lot of hot ladies on our side of the spectrum. But I'm like the Wicked Witch of the West over here or whatever. Natalie Winters, none of them make me melt quite like Natalie Winters, whichever witch melted. I don't know.
But let's broaden out this critique, right? It's not just that they lied to you about, democracy is catering, it's collapsing. They lied to you and they knew it. January 6th, right. The COVID vaccine, the origins of COVID, the mask mandates, the Afghanistan withdrawal, everything. And they sat there in that chair every day, lied to you, lied to the American people. They have blood on their hands, and now they want to go sit at Mar-a-Lago and have the nerve to tell you that now we need unity. Back. No. What we need is accountability.
That's right, Natalie.
And accountability in the MAGA derivative, the MAGA version of it, not the Trey Gowdy, weak establishment Republican dialect of accountability, where it's a couple of strongly worded letters and tweets and these people go on with their lives and they use their security clearances that, don't get me wrong, they're going to get revoked. They use those security clearances to grift and make even more millions of dollars off of you, the American people. All I can say is that President Trump is a very kind man to have invited that Morning Joe crowd into his home, Mar-a-Lago, in August of 2022. Was raided by the FBI, cheered on, if not probably planned. They probably have the master plans framed in their house, the schedule, the logistics of how they were going to raid Mar-a-Lago back in 2022, that he would invite these people who cheered that on back to Mar-a-Lago. What a disgrace. I hope they debunked.
I don't know if I know Emily Skunk.
Deloused. Did a nice, thorough, industrial-grade cleaning of Mar-a-Lago after those despicable people came and shared a meal with President Trump.
So true, Natalie.
To bring it to what we concluded that...
Boom. Awesome. Natalie's on point, as always. Yeah, that's right. Gowdy. Total joke. That's right, Mama Mac. There's no unity with these people, and absolutely, we need to actually drain the swamp this time. Also, term limits on all offices. Not only on all offices, but on all federal employees, I think. We need to make sure that none of these people can become entrenched bureaucrats. Got to eliminate the shadow government by just preventing people from staying in office and from operating as functionaries of the government for more than just a few years, I think. Yep, totally brutal. Let's check in with Buck Sexton. Trump's victory is so complete, Morning Joe has fully surrendered. Both hosts went to Mar-a-Lago to kiss the ring of the dawn. Astonishing. Bad Hombre also talking about it at Joma_GC on X. Amazing. Intern killer, Morning Joe, and pill-popping Mika were forced by desperate executives that bankrupt MSDNC to go down to Mar-a-Lago to bend over and take it from President-elect Donald Trump. President-elect President Trump. That's awesome. You can sense how painful this was for them. Yes, you can. We got a meme that sums it up here, too, from the Puerto Rican at The Rican Memes on X. Live look at Morning Joe meeting with Trump at Mar-a-Lago. That's right. Kiss the ring, you sons of bitches. Kiss the ring of the dawn, the Godfather. Eric Trump also released a statement about this, posted by ex-analyst over here at topic_flow. Eric Trump, quote, the media has lost all credibility. He had a media that was against him every day. Joe and Mika are trashing my dad every morning. They used to spend weekends at Mar-a-Lago. Oprah, Aaron Burnett, Anderson Cooper, Don Lemon. We knew them all, and they loved us. Until my father decided to go down that escalator, Simpson style. Clearly, they got the American people wrong, because no matter how bad their coverage was, my father had one of the most decisive victories in history. It's really amazing when you think about that in context of the mainstream media just consistently trashing him like 99% of the time. The media has lost their credibility, hence why podcasts are doing well, why Rogan is doing well, why X is doing well. The legacy media is not believable anymore. Let's see Eric say it.
It is also the credibility. And listen, my father won the popular vote by what, 5 million votes, the largest electoral college, victory in 50, 60 years in this country. And clearly he had a media that was 98% against him every single day. And by the way, Sean, let me just remind you, this is the same media that we as a family knew so well. You see Joe and Mika on MSNBC every single morning, and they're trashing him every morning. I mean, they used to spend half the weekends at Mar-a-Lago. They were there all the time with my father, right? This is Oprah. Oprah, another person who used to love going to Mar-a-Lago. Erin Brunette, right? Same thing, was always, always around. We'd have lunch with her in Trump Tower all the time. The Anderson Coopers, the Don Lemons. I mean, we literally knew them all, and they loved us, right? They loved us. Donnie Deutsch, he was begging to be on The Apprentice. They loved us until my father decided to go down that escalator, and then like this, it all changed, right? It just all changed. It was a pile-on
like
all
Donnie
day,
Douche.
every single day. They knew his heart and soul. They knew us as a family. They were friends of ours. And it all changed when he went down that escalator. But clearly they got the American people wrong, because no matter how bad
Too
their
bigly
coverage
to
was,
wriggly.
my father had maybe the most decisive victory in the history of American politics. And so I think the media has, a lot of inward reflection to do. I'm not actually sure if they're capable of doing it, because they are elitist and, they pretend to be smarter than everybody else, and what they say goes, right? And we've seen that for years and years and years. But I do think that the media in this country has less credibility than it's ever had before. Hence the reason that the podcasts are doing so well. Hence the reason that Joe Rogan's doing so well. Hence the reason when my father goes on with Elon Musk on Twitter Spaces, he had 2.1 billion total impressions from that. I mean, the landscape of the media is changing drastically because the American people do not trust them.
I agree, Alpha Boss.
Yeah, they don't.
Ooh, thanks, JJR. Appreciate you, brother. Let's hop over and get Megyn Kelly's take on it from Red Wave Press, posting this at @RedWave_Press. Conservative Megyn Kelly tells Morning Joe hosts to go fuck themselves. Let's check it out.
I searched for a way to respond appropriately, and I called on my 10 years as a litigator in addition to my now 20 as a journalist, and I think I found the perfect phrase: go fuck yourselves. Go
GFY.
fuck yourselves, you dishonest jokes of faux journalists. What an absurd farce that was, Glenn.
XB.
Which one was insincere? He's Hitler, or now we're going to speak truth to power and find a way of speaking to and working with Donald Trump? Which one was a lie?
Were you lying then?
Megan, I've
or are
thought
you
about
lying
this.
now?
This is not hyperbole. I've given actual thought to this. I've done rankings. Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski are
right,
the
Monty.
most humiliated and pathetic people in all of corporate media. And I realize there's a lot of serious contenders for that crown. So if other people have someone they want to slot number one, I wouldn't necessarily say it's unreasonable. But the thing about them is, unlike other people in the media who have been completely unhinged about Trump being Hitler, Trump being in bed with Putin, the Steele dot, all of that, those people actually believe it. Like, they're that insane. Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski don't believe in anything other than their own career and their own ratings. Remember, Joe Scarborough was elected in the mid-1990s as part of that Newt Gingrich counter-revolution that was supposed to be this far-right contract with America. Then he gets on MSNBC. He continues doing that until MSNBC demanded full-on anti-Trump hysteria. But in the 2015 and 2016 election, you were the one to point this out actually very well. Nobody did more to promote Donald Trump in the Republican primary than those two. They would allow him to call into their show and did it constantly. No other candidate. Why? Because it was the only thing that got ratings. He saved all of their jobs. Then once he got elected, calling him Hitler, calling him all of this, that became the way you get ratings, and then doing that through the campaign. But now that Hitler has returned to power, the first thing they do is tuck their tails and fly to Mar-a-Lago and not even interview him, meet with him privately and personally, and then justify it with this journalistic veneer. It is so repulsive. And the reason for it, as you know, is that MSNBC's ratings haven't just declined precipitously since Kamala lost. They basically have disappeared. There's nobody watching that network anymore for so many reasons. And they obviously have calculated that the one thing that can save their jobs again is reestablishing a relationship with the fascist dictator, Donald Trump, in order to get him back on their show, knowing that's the only thing that people will want to watch. It's so opportunistic. And
these people are pure evil, man. Pure evil. And, their audience had shrunk so much already. Now that they've bent the knee to Trump, they'll probably be losing even more of their own normal core audience. So hopefully their ratings just continue to tank as the left eats themselves. Because that's exactly what's happening. In completely unrelated news, Shadow of Ezra posted this one at Shadow of Ezra on X. In 2001, Joe Scarborough abruptly resigned from Congress just 6 months after being reelected amid swirling rumors of an affair with an intern. Shortly after, the body of intern Lori Klausutis was discovered in his office. Despite the suspicious circumstances, her death was officially ruled an accident. Dr. Michael Birkeland initially stated that the nature of Lori Klausutis' head trauma did not indicate an accidental death, but later changed his conclusion, claiming she fainted due to a heart condition and struck her head on a desk. Yeah, I don't think that would cause the type of fracturing and stuff, the blunt force trauma that was apparently, observed in the body. Yeah, I can kind of imagine how that conversation went down in Mar-a-Lago. Trump saying, listen, we have all kinds of evidence on you. We can prosecute you or you can change your tune. Got to be something like that. Speaking of prosecutions, let's get into some Matt Gaetz stuff. Elon Musk defending Gaetz over here. Matt Gaetz has 3 critical assets that are needed for the AG role: a big brain, a spine of steel, and an axe to grind. He is the Judge Dredd America needs to clean up a corrupt system and put powerful, bad actors in prison. Gaetz will be our hammer of justice. Ooh, man. I like that. He continues, as for these accusations against him, I consider them worth less than nothing. Under our laws, a man is considered innocent until proven guilty. If A.G. Garland, an unprincipled douchebag, could have secured a conviction against Gaetz, he would have, but he knew he could not. Case closed. Yeah, so they're bringing up these old allegations. Why did the DOJ drop the case? I think that's pretty much all we need to know, that they dropped the case. Truth Now posted some good videos over here at SXDoc on X. Quote, Matt Gaetz is the key that picks the locks. Steve Bannon says Gaetz will be confirmed before Trump inauguration. Darren Beatty and Mike Davis say Gaetz will be confirmed. He's an excellent choice to bring accountability back to the DOJ and get rid of lawfare and the 2-tier justice system. Yes, indeed.
Winning in 22, the midterms, where Gaetz was central to. Getting the appropriations bill 12, so all the structural changes that Matt Gaetz made. Why is Matt Gaetz the key that picks a lot here? Of all these other great choices, why is he central, and why is it an imperative that we show strength by not having a recess appointment on him, but we actually get him passed by the United States Senate, sir?
Well, I think a number of things. First of all, he has a demonstrated and unwavering loyalty, not only to Trump, but to the MAGA agenda that was just approved by an historic majority by the electorate. This is the mandate. This is part of the mandate. So I think that loyalty is critical. And like I alluded to earlier, we've seen in previous instances how a weak and disloyal AG can severely cripple the presidency. Weak AGs have traditionally been the Achilles heel of the presidency as far as Trump. And so I think this is why part of the reason why Trump is, quote, all in on the Gaetz confirmation, because he understands how central it is, how indispensable it is to have someone who is loyal not only to him, but to the agenda that the American people resoundingly approved how critical that is to getting the job done more generally. Because if you're bogged down in all of this nonsense like he was in the first term, that not only affects what's going on in the DOJ, that affects the bandwidth that you have to implement the agenda.
Thanks again to JJRSVL. Make sure to subscribe to JJRSVL on Rumble, our Info Navy Combat Information Center Command Fleet Admiral, JJRSVL. Thanks, brother. And yeah, Wendy, no pants club. Shh, no pants allowed.
Across the institutions of government. So that's why it's really critical. And also about Gates is, yes, he's a firebrand. Yes, he's a disruptor, but he's also an exceptionally acute lawyer. He understands how to do things. This isn't just someone who's going to go in and break things willy-nilly. There's a surgical aspect to his intelligence. He knows what to do. He knows how to deal with the media, but he also knows how to deal with the bureaucracy. He knows how to navigate it. And I think that's also what's going to make him tremendously effective. You know, in our piece at Revolver News, we had just a couple of creative things that if you have someone who's open to creative thinking can absolutely do. You know, in the first term, there was a religious liberty task force in the DOJ. There can be a First Amendment task force now of kind of a nerve center to deal with all of the censorship and First Amendment issues. And even if it comes out, as it has a bit in the Twitter files, that there have been people violating the law in terms of the First Amendment, you can go after them. Here's one of my favorite ideas: False Claims Act. It's a very little known act that dates back to the Civil War, but effectively what it says is it gives any potential whistleblower standing to expose fraud against the government. Now, this is traditionally used for healthcare, in the healthcare arena, in tax arena, but there's no reason this can't be expanded, for instance, to say if universities say they're not doing affirmative action and they actually are, people can expose this and get a bounty. So
Darren, hang on 1 second. President Trump and
that counts, Snarl. That counts. Too many mushrooms. The pants ended up on the head. That's just the new style, bro.
Cabinet positions, Supreme Court justices. So you're an expert in this on the confirmation process, but you're also an expert on Article 3 in your time in town here. In fact, Gates is so unacceptable. On MSNBC the other day, they actually referred to, I don't think they went as far as Clark. I think they went as far as you and Paoletta. Oh, those guys are acceptable. They went in the Senate. Talk to me about the team that you see Gates pulling together over justice and some recommendations.
Not going to jail. That's what they have up their sleeves, Brett.
All gas, no brake. All pedal to the metal, no brake in this. What do you got for me?
Well, look what we've done, Steve. I've spent, the last 2 years on your show trolling the left, that I'm going to be the acting attorney general and all the crazy stuff that I was saying. We've shifted the Overton window so much now that with Matt Gaetz as the pick, he's such a bold and fearless reformer that now MSNBC thinks Mike Davis is suddenly acceptable. That tells you we've got the right guy with Matt Gaetz. He's been on the House Judiciary Committee. He's been in Washington long enough to know how the place works. But he is definitely an outsider in Washington. He is despised by the swamp creatures in Washington because Matt Gaetz is bold. He's fearless. He took
Later,
on
Hoot Hollow. Have a good night, my
Republican
friend.
Establishment, including Kevin McCarthy. So there are a lot of knives out for Matt Gaetz, and that makes him an ideal pick to go into the Justice Department to bring serious reforms to the Justice Department. We need to end this weaponization of intel agencies and law enforcement, and that is going to require accountability, investigations, and if appropriate, prosecutions of this Democrat lawfare and election interference going back to Obama with Crossfire Hurricane and an ongoing criminal conspiracy with Hunter Biden's laptop and these 4 indictments and naming Trump as an unindicted co-conspirator in Arizona and the New York Attorney General's office's civil fraud lawsuit.
But here's
to prison his supporters on January 6th.
Like none of us now.
As an unindicted co-conspirator in Arizona and the New York Attorney General's office's civil fraud lawsuit.
Here's we've had Davis on here for 2 years now, going as the viceroy, and when they always cut clips, they got Davis up here and myself, and there's all these crazy people who are yelling and screaming about investigations. NBC News, not Gateway Pundit, not Breitbart, right? Not the National Pulse, not.
Gaetz is gonna fucking charge all these people. I'm hoping. This is his purpose, man. He's been living his whole life to this moment to be AG so we can arrest all of these people. Hopefully we do a clean sweep. Whew. Ninth Circle. I like Trump putting Gates in charge of the AG position while being investigated for trafficking and convicted for child porn is insane. I don't think there was any child porn stuff. They were witnesses who were later discredited who claimed that they saw him having sex with a 17-year-old, but even the DOJ dropped the cases. So I understand your position, but I think it's been pretty discredited, and we got to put all the politics aside and just put the right people in. So hopefully we're able to get him in. Ninth Circle. I agree. I hope he does. Thanks for joining us, Ninth Circle.
Revolver. NBC News reports this morning that Merrick Garland was stunned on election night and that senior Justice Department officials were weeping. That's up on the stack if you go to Citizens Free Press right now in Kane. What does that tell you, Davis? That and they're all worried about going bankrupt, lawyering up. Like none of us had to pay millions of dollars of legal fees, or some people like Rudy are actually going into bankruptcy because of it. What does it tell you when NBC News reports a well-reported, deeply sourced story that they're panicked over at Main Justice, sir?
They should be panicked. They should be fearful. They should be crying because they have politicized and weaponized our justice systems at every level. They did this with the intel agencies with Crossfire Hurricane. And these people who participated in this unprecedented Republican-ending lawfare and election interference against President Trump, his top aides like you, Steve Bannon, and Peter Navarro, who went to prison, his supporters on January 6th, who were politically persecuted under the Supreme Court's Fisher decision, parents getting targeted by the Biden FBI for raising hell about gender chaos in schools and the resulting rapes in high school bathrooms. They sent pro-life Christians, including a 75-year-old Christian to prison under the FACE Act because of this corrupt civil rights division by the Biden-Harris Justice Department. Kristen Clark, who's corrupt, who perjured herself to get the job.
Ninth Circle, I think what you're thinking of is the underage sex trafficking allegations, which was about that alleged 17-year-old, but super sketchy nonetheless, of course, although it's been discredited at this point and they dropped the charges and everything. And it's like Trump, if they had evidence, they would have absolutely charged him. So I think that we're probably going to be in the clear. Super sketchy, though. Agreed.
Right. There has to be accountability for what happened. So I'm glad that they're fearful. I'm glad that they're crying. They should lawyer up because nobody is above the law, as they always told us. And if they didn't commit a crime, they have no reason to be fearful. They have no reason to be crying, right? Because, of course, you don't prosecute for non-crimes, do you?
We definitely do not.
Darren Beatty, the centrality of Gates and what Gates brings. Because remember, we fought long odds with Matt Gaetz before.
We saw the Darren Beatty clip. So yeah, here's the thing. Being nominated to the head of the DOJ is such sweet revenge after they came after me for sex trafficking. The general wisdom concerning age gap dating is to half one's age and subtract 7. I'm 42 and have almost never betrayed this general maxim over the last 10 years. Hilarious. Let's jump over to Elon Musk reposting insurrection. Barbie at Defiantly Free on X with a Y in the middle of Defiantly. 20 GOP senators voted to confirm Garland. Blunt, Burr, Capito, Cassidy, Collins, Cornyn, Ernst, Graham, Grassley, Inhofe, Johnson, Lankford, McConnell, Moran, Murkowski, Portman, Romney, Rounds, Thune, and Thillis. They voted yes, even though Garland said he believed the department's top priorities will be ensuring racial equity and meeting the evolving threat of violent extremism. Code for Go After January 6ers. Garland refused to answer whether or not illegally entering via the country should remain a crime. He refused to say what he would protect female athletes from males in their locker rooms and sports teams. He also refused to commit to releasing the Durham report. And despite all of that, those Republicans voted to confirm him. Remember that. Flynn says, this is why I am not listening to any of the left's ideas for those contemplating sitting down to discuss political differences. If Trump lost, he'd be going to jail for the rest of his life. His business and his family would have been destroyed. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. The left was setting us all up to destroy America, overturn the Constitution, and make us all live under communism. We dodged a major bullet, and everyone knows it. To MAGA, certain people must first be held accountable that conspired to undermine a sitting president, number 45. They know who they are, and they're still out talking smack about Trump and his cabinet choices. They're not done trying to undermine his presidency. Accountability must happen. LFG. Elon Musk also reposting Charlie Kirk saying the Department of Injustice needs major reform, as Molly Hemingway delivers an absolutely masterful defense of Matt Gaetz as AG. For 8 years, we haven't had a Department of Justice. We've had a Department of Injustice. And too few of our leaders in D.C. had the spine to fight back. Gaetz has enemies in D.C. precisely because he didn't back down from the toughest fights. He is the warrior. We need to set things right. I think it's actually a good move, Ninth Circle, that he picked him, because it signals that we're not playing your fucking political games anymore. So I like it. I like it a lot. And somebody ended up in prison for trying to extort Matt Gaetz with that whole thing, being convicted for attempting to extort the Gaetz family for $25 million over that whole situation. Crazy stuff. But yeah, I like it. Signaling we're not fucking discounting people because of your bullshit allegations anymore. We're picking the right people. We're not playing politics, politically incorrect. What is it? Cutesy time that Dan Bongino says it's over. Cutesy time is over. Let's check out Molly Hemingway making a case for Matt Gaetz.
Right. Matt Gaetz was nominated for this position because we have a problem with the Department of Justice. For the last 8 years, they have run roughshod over rule of law in this country. They have prosecuted political opponents. They ran the Russia collusion hoax. And too many people in Washington, D.C. did not stand up against what was happening there. And many Americans are upset about it. Matt Gaetz is one of the most effective people at fighting that Russia collusion hoax and other information operations, whether it was the Brett Kavanaugh information operation, the Donald Trump Russia collusion hoax information operation, or the one that is referenced here, which is something that the FBI and Department of Justice, which hate Matt Gaetz, looked into and cleared him of any wrongdoing. The idea that this is about the issue is corruption. It's the Department of Justice's corruption. And people are sick and tired of people in Washington, D.C. doing nothing as these people tried to destroy the country and getting upset at someone who actually might root out the corruption there. We don't have a Department of Justice. We have a Department of Injustice. And that's why you get Matt Gaetz as a nominee.
Gowdy's not happy about that. He rolls his eyes after that. Whiskey, nice meme. If you guys didn't cheat last time around, you'd only have 2 months left of Trump right now. But instead, you got 4 years and with a much more based, hardcore cabinet and crew than you would have had in 2020. So suck it. GFY. We're coming for you legally and lawfully, of course. Let's get out this clip of what Matt Gaetz says about the alcohol, about the ATF. This is a classic little Gaetz clip right here.
Alcohol, tobacco, and firearms should be the name of a chain of convenience stores in Florida, not a federal agency. We need to abolish the ATF before they abolish our Second Amendment rights.
Abolish the ATF before they abolish our Second Amendment rights. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. George at BeHizzy tweets also posted about this situation, saying, breaking, President Trump is personally calling GOP senators to inform them that they must vote to confirm Matt Gaetz as Attorney General. Senator Kevin Cramer said Trump was very, quote, persuasive. Let's check out. Oh, where's the clip? Where's the clip? He clearly wants Matt Gaetz, he said. He believes Matt Gaetz is the one person who will have the fearlessness and ferociousness, really, to do what needs doing, the Department of Justice. One thing about Donald Trump, people should never confuse his support for one of his nominees as a tactical or strategic tool for somebody else. And at least to this point, he's putting his own political capital behind it. And he's a pretty persuasive guy, Senator Cramer said. Where is the video? Where's the video? Oh, I don't have it. Sorry about that, guys. Let's jump into some Fauci stuff. We're going to have to terminate the YouTube broadcast at this point, I think, guys. So if you're watching on YouTube, come join us on Rumble, where the water is warm and we can speak freely. Just posted the link over in the YouTube chat for Rumble. And if you're watching over there, sorry, we're going to have to ditch you so we can speak freely. Come join us. If you can't make it, we'll be back tomorrow for our Hump Day edition of Common Censored. Until then,